Well, Israel, remember, has created buffer zones to help aid the evacuation. They've also given a 3-hour time period in the day to help some of the civilians in the Gaza Strip to move southwards. Times now break down the evacuation plan. Take a look at this report.
Viewers, the Israeli Defense Forces issued a directive to the people living in Gaza City to evacuate from north to the south. Now let me tell you how this entire scenario will pan out and how the Israelis have asked the people of Gaza to relocate from north to south. So this is Israel, that is Egypt, and this red zone that we have demarcated is the Gaza Strip. Now here you'll have to understand 3 important points: the Erie's crossing, Gaza City, as well as the Rafah crossing. So people here, 1.1 million people living in Gaza City have been asked to relocate from here all the way to the Rafah crossing, and this entire stretches for about 25 miles. So only from the Erie's crossing till Wadi Gaza it's about 10 miles, and from here till the Rafah crossing it's about 15 miles. Now what we have to note here is that 2.2 million people live in the Gaza Strip, and people believe that it is very hard for them to relocate within a stipulated time of 24 hours, because a lot of has taken place in Gaza after Hamas terrorists were seen fighting, or rather launching terror attacks from residential localities. So Israel had to bombard a few residential localities where they felt that Hamas terrorists were hiding out. Now what is difficult is that the Gaza city also houses about 1.1 million people, along with 11 hospitals and 3 UN compounds, and it becomes very hard for all of them to relocate to the Rafah crossing in just 24 hours. And another important point which has to be noted here is that the Rafah crossing continues to remain closed, and whether or not Egypt will open it for Gaza refugees remains to be seen.
Well, whether or not Egypt will allow some of the Gazans to now get into the Egyptian side via the Rafah border, along with, of course, how the Hamas is also attempting to block such exits, remains to be seen. But sadly, it's the Hamas that are refusing to allow Gazans from evacuating from the northern part of the enclave. On the other hand, Israeli Air Force continues its operation to take out terror dens and operatives of Hamas terror group. In one such operation, the Israeli jets annihilated a hideout of the Hamas southern commander as well. While Hamas continues to launch rockets after rockets into Israel, the IDF launched an air search party to track down the launch pads. During the hunt for the rocket launchers, the IDF and the Israel Air Force were shocked to find that the rockets were being fired from residential localities. Wasting no time, the Air Force jets flattened these launch pads in their counter-air strikes. And as the evacuations continue, the IDF has also released a video showing how the Hamas terrorists stormed and killed innocent civilians in the Israel neighborhood. Watch the shocking sequence once again.
دخل جوا ايه أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. دخل جوا ايه أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
Meanwhile, even as people from North Gaza move southwards after IDF's directive for evacuation, drone footage shows the widespread destruction of parts of Gaza City as a result of Israel's war with the Hamas. Many residential buildings were flattened to rubble. High-rise buildings were reduced to ashes. Over 2,600, remember, have been killed in Gaza Strip. Well, over 9,000 have sustained injuries, while the region continues to suffer without power, without water, or even food supplies. That's the state of affairs, and that's why one is now forced to put out both the versions of how there are high casualties both in the Gaza Strip and, of course, in Israel. That's where the first brutal assault was launched by the Hamas, leaving at least 1,300 plus dead in Israel. As far as the retaliatory strikes, the counter-offensive on part of the ISD is concerned, that has killed over 2,600, I beg your pardon, in the latest. And that's why there is also growing concern worldwide over the loss of lives and especially the civilian casualties taking place in the Gaza Strip. Now, though the IDF formally has been putting out several updates on social media, has been establishing a proper evacuation plan, has been talking about corridors that have been left open for civilians to move southwards, Gaza Strip, and finally exit from the Rafah border. This is the state of affairs because the terrorists, the Hamas terrorists, continue to use residential complexes as their launch pads. Let's talk about the diaspora.